Thank you. Thank you. I do have a series of questions, but I'll just, in the interest of time, make a comment at this point. You know, the way that this bill is being framed is as increasing and creating options for women. And I think that I have a couple of thoughts about that. The first is that it's an insult to women. 64% of women who have abortions in this state already have children. I think they know what their options are when they are pregnant and trying to decide what to do with their lives. The second thought I have is, as Senator Chaudhry just alluded to, more options, even if that is true, is irrelevant if access to these options is so restrictive that the options are out of reach for most people. And by requiring the in-person consultation, which currently can be done over the phone and has been done over the phone tens of thousands of times in this state, by requiring that to be in person and to require the follow-up visit for a medical abortion, this effectively bans abortion for most working women and certainly all of the women who are coming into North Carolina from out of state. We are, in fact, this bill does, in fact, reduce options that are now available to women and prevent them from making the best decisions for themselves and their families, and from implementing those decisions in the way that they would like. I would encourage us to stop trying to protect women who do not need protection in these instances, and instead trusting those women and their doctors to make the best decisions for the woman, again, and her family. I do have a couple of questions. If the
Ladies recognized for a couple of questions.
Thank you. So the bill, well, first question is, does this bill change the definition of where abortions can be performed? And a subset of that is, if a clinic is an acceptable and is a legally acceptable place to receive an abortion now, will that also be true going forward under this bill, or does that definition change?
And the chair will ask if any members desire to answer that question, and if not, the chair will go to staff to answer that question. The gentleman's recognized.
Jason Moran Bates, Legislative Analysis. So the provisions licensing abortion clinics are entirely new. There is a process right now where DHHS can, in administrative rule, certify places for abortion clinics, but the licensure language is new. I hope that answers the question. I can clarify if it doesn't.
Follow up.
Ladies recognized.
Do we have any estimation of the number of clinics that are currently operating that would be impacted by this? In other words, the number of clinics where women can currently access abortions, how many of those would be impacted or closed?
Gentleman's recognized.
Jason Moran Bates, Legislative Analysis. I apologize, I do not have that information.
Okay. Follow up.
Ladies recognized.
The bill says that abortions after 12 weeks can only be performed in hospitals, and I'm wondering if there is a medically justifiable reason for that. Again, given the thousands and perhaps tens of thousands of abortions that have occurred after 12 weeks in North Carolina outside of hospitals over the last 50 years.
The chair sees Representative Baker seeking recognition. The lady want to be recognized as to this series of questions.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
The lady's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Mayfield. I just want to address a couple of your questions. I guess the most recent one regarding requirements of in-hospital care are simply to take care of mothers. And I think one of the things that ties into another question I wanted to address. It is actually longstanding North Carolina law around chemical abortions that those be performed in the presence of a physician. And let me explain why. And you'll see this bill includes ectopic pregnancy as not being an elective abortion and clarifying that. There are a lot of questions around ectopic pregnancies, which of course are pregnancies that don't occur in the womb, don't occur in the uterus, and therefore cannot be brought to viable life and are dangerous for the mother. So what happens is if a woman simply gets a pregnancy test on her own, that pregnancy test will confirm a pregnancy. It does not confirm an intrauterine pregnancy. If that woman who has confirmed pregnancy not through a physician's confirmation goes ahead and uses a chemical abortion pill and she has an ectopic pregnancy, she may and has bled to death. The problem is that the complications of the chemical pregnancy of mifepristone are both cramping and bleeding. So when a woman who has an ectopic pregnancy takes that chemical outside a physician's confirmed intrauterine pregnancy, when she is at home taking that medication by herself and she begins cramping and bleeding, she understandably believes that is a normal side effect. She does not know, would not know, could not know when that becomes a serious medical consequence that can lead to both her death and of course, the ejection of the ectopic pregnancy. So those are some of the reasons. Number one, again, in North Carolina, we have always required physician presence for administration of mifepristone. So the patient visits the doctor and then comes back 3 days later to take the mifepristone in the presence of the doctor, again, because we've confirmed an intrauterine pregnancy. That already exists and it is codified explicitly here. But that ties into the reason that as we've looked at this and looked at the risk to women, we would like that, we feel that it is in the best interest of the woman to have abortions, elective abortions, post 12 weeks occur in the hospital.
Senator Mayfield.
Follow up, thank you. I would be, I don't know if anyone has this, maybe we don't need it now, but I would be curious to know the percentage of abortions that happen after 12 weeks currently that are, that involve ectopic pregnancies. That would seem to be small, I would guess, and not likely a complete justification for this. But I do want to ask a clarifying question based on that answer, and that is, so it is current law that a woman has to take mifepristone in the presence of a physician, and that is also in this bill. Does this bill also require administration of the second pill in a medical abortion to be done in the presence of a physician?
Representative Baker.
I'll defer to staff to clarify the language. Thank you.
Gentleman's recognized.
Jason Moran, Bates Legislative Analysis. The bill specifies that when the drug is first administered, it has to be done in the physical presence of a physician.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Does the lady continue to seek recognition?
I will yield.
Okay. Members, is there any further discussion or debate at this point before we go to public comment? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move into public comment. The chair has several members of the public signed up to speak. We're going to do a minute and a half for each member of the public who has signed up to speak.